How are you guys doing? Want to take a moment to acknowledge each other, right? So, kind of that point of the semester after midterms. What are some of the things you guys are feeling?
Tired.
Tired. Anyone else? You guys are all just tired, that's it. Nothing else going on in your lives aside from school that makes it more difficult than it already appears to be, right? Stress is another one I usually hear. But that's good, right? That's how you guys build resilience. It's sort of like proof to yourself that you're still standing where a weaker person would have already given up. That's kind of how I see it, how you pull through that. Well, that's good. Can't tell if a lot of you are missing or what. Probably because, they thought Memoriam wasn't here, so it's not very, I'm not that interesting or whatever. But, well, that sucks for them because they'll quiz you now or later. What do you guys think?
No quiz.
Oh, like I have to, I'm sorry, but I believe me, I wouldn't, I don't want to grade it either, but I guess we'll do it right now. Yeah, take out a piece of paper, put your shit away. Oh, actually. There's a lot of stuff I want to get through, so I won't drag on it. I'll kind of make it a little quick. Everyone's mostly ready to go. Quiz 6. There's plenty of space. I mean, if you can just move your to the side or whatever. You don't have to like shuffling whatever. Yeah, it's quiz 6. Memoriam came up with these questions. I didn't, so. All right, we're good. Quiz 6, and then he added a little note. Everyone who thought they didn't need to be here because Memoriam ain't is wrong. Okay, that's him. All right, what's going on here? True or false? Tennyson did not inherit his title of Lord. I think this was from the lecture, right? He told you guys yesterday. Or not yesterday, sorry. Day before. So yeah, just true or false. And come on, don't leave it blank. Sometimes I know some of you guys leave it blank. It's better to guess. I mean, at least for this one, it's a 50-50. Come on. Who is the strong son Tennyson addresses in the introductory poem in Memoriam? Again, just put a name in case you don't know. I'll give you a hint. It wasn't his own son. I don't know if he even had a son. I don't really look at the biographies of these authors because, we're kind of infected by this idea that like we should separate the work from the author and their biographical like life and stuff. Anyway, who's the strong son? Again, go ahead and guess if you don't know. The charge of the Light Brigade is about a military disaster that occurred during what war? Again, I think Dr. Niemeyer mentioned this in the Wednesday lecture. And also, multiple choice again. You have 1 in 4 chance if in case you don't know it. And whose ideas made many people during the Victorian period, the Victorian era, doubt their belief in God? I know I kind of made it sound like that was the last question. I'm sorry, we have one more. Whose ideas made many people during the Victorian era doubt their belief in God? I think he showed you a caricature or something. And why is it wrong to refer to Elizabeth Barrett Browning as just Browning? That one's a little harder. Might be a sentence to answer that one. Are we good? Taking a moment. I'll give you about a minute. Make your final guesses if you have to. We're almost done here, so quick sheet of paper so you can get some answers in. Mr. I don't know your name, sorry. You guys want me to repeat them one more time? Alright, true or false? Tennyson did not inherit his title of Lord. Remember, his name is Alfred Lord Tennyson. We know another guy who's a Lord Byron. So inherit means that obviously he was born into it. Who is the strong son Tennyson addresses in the introductory poem to In Memoriam? Again, not his son. I don't even know if he had a son. Probably did. But that's not who it was, so don't put that, please. Number 3. The Charge of the Light Brigade is about a military disaster that occurred during what war? The American Revolution, the War of 1812, the Crimean War, or the Boer War. Whose ideas made many people during the Victorian era doubt their belief in God? Again, I think he showed you a cartoon or caricature, political drawing, I don't know. And lastly, why is it wrong to refer to Elizabeth Barrett Browning as just Browning? As just Elizabeth Browning. Why would that be wrong? Good? See several heads? Okay. All right. And that's the end of the show here, so go ahead and pass them to the side. This side, sorry. Your right. We'll go over the answers right now. Alright, let's see. I guess I don't need this anymore. What are the answers? What are the answers here? Oh, I guess I should open it because I forgot the questions. Okay. Alright, true or false? Tennyson did not inherit his title of Lord.
True.
I honestly don't know. I'm just kidding. Alright, good. Who is the strong son referenced in the poem? Who is the strong son? He starts off with strong son. You guys can look at your books now, so 2 words after it. So who is the strong son? Jesus Christ. Godless heathens that got that one wrong. No, I'm just kidding. The Charge of the Light Brigade is about a military disaster that occurred during what war? Bit of a history question. That was from his lecture. Which one is it? The Crimean War. Whose ideas made many people during the Victorian era doubt their belief in God? Darwin. Excellent. Yeah. Started talking about he like Neymar said, the ideas on evolution weren't started with him, but he sort of like formalized it and sort of went out and did a lot of field work. Why is it wrong to refer to Elizabeth Barrett Browning as just Elizabeth Browning? Browning's her husband name. Yep. But that I'll accept that as an answer. If you wrote that, that's enough. But what might be another reason? And
She published like poems in her name.
excellent. She was already known as Elizabeth Barrett. So it sort of would have removed her identity, right? I mean, every woman got their identity removed when they married. All right, very good, awesome. So let's get on with this literature. I'll be honest, I don't like the Victorians. I don't really care for them, but I like to see the Romantic influence. That's something that I think we see moving forward after the Romantics. Some of their ideas, some of their thoughts, you can still sort of see them. And I want to start off this conversation by talking about some old Greek ideas. You guys don't get confused when I bring up like philosophy or whatever, right? I'm just trying to show you that like I'm pulling these ideas from existing like contexts or books. I'm not just pulling them out of my head to make sure that like to sort of ground some of these ideas. So how many of you have already taken Intro to Philosophy or Intro to Ethics? Any of those? No one? Oh, no one. It's like a 1301, like it's one of your first, no? Okay. An elective. It's pretty fun. Well, anyway, I guess we'll talk a little bit about that. I can't give you like the entire context up to where I want to talk about, but how many of you have heard the name Aristotle? Aristotle, plenty of you. Aristotle was the famous student of Plato, who was a famous student of Socrates, who we've talked about before. And Aristotle was the famous teacher of Alexander the Great, right? The Macedonian. Conquered a lot of the Mediterranean. So, and the Middle East, I think. So the Greeks had this idea, and it serves. I bring it in because we're going to sort of be talking about death and the afterlife, whatever. Well, for the Greeks, the ultimate aim of being alive and behaving a certain way was to reach something called the good life, which they called eudaimonia. I guess I can spell it out here. Eudaimonia, right? That's what they believed in. Can you guys see it? It's too small. Eudaimonia. That's what they believe in. Now, they all have different theories about how to reach this, but since they're all students of Socrates and Plato, so they kind of have the similar conceptions. And so Aristotle determined that the life of contemplation, which again, that's another long conversation to have. What does that mean? But I'm just giving you the spark notes of it. The life of contemplation is the right life to live, right? Because it helps give you or cultivate intellectual virtue to help you reach the good life. But it's not enough to simply cultivate yourself intellectually. You also have to cultivate yourself morally. And you need these types of excellences. They call them excellences or virtues, which sort of form you as a whole. And if you cultivate them enough, you get to the good life. So you're not alone, right? On earth, you have all these other people and more outside of this room. And so for Aristotle, ethics and morality is something that can only really be practiced around other people, to other people, right? Like the ways that we interact and how we make those other people better are something that cultivates all of that. So you have to sort of surround yourself with the right people, because the wrong people can ruin all of your hard work. Why you're working so hard to get to the good life, and all of a sudden, some jackass comes in and sort of stains your reputation or whatever, your moral virtue, your moral excellence. And so you have to surround yourself with the right people. But who are the right people? It could be family, but mainly for Aristotle, these would be what you call friends. And you have to be careful with friends. There's 3 types of friendships that he outlines in it's a book called the Nicomachean Ethics. Nicomachean Ethics. This is where he talks about that. In case you're trying to find some primary sources for research or whatever later. So he talks about the 3 types of friendships. The first one is a friendship based on pleasure. This is where you both share the same avenue of pleasure. What would be some examples? I mean, anyone? You guys aren't friends? I'm kidding. Friends with benefits, right? Those are some type of friends that you share a type of pleasure. The only thing you have in common is that you're hot for each other and you have great fucking sex. But as soon as one of you wants to get more serious, assuming that there's two of you guys are wild now with your three and your four, but as soon as one of you wants to get more serious or one of you finds another person you want to start a relationship with, the source of pleasure is diminished, friendship is over. Another example, maybe this one, your party friends, right? Ones that you got drinking. There's certain friends that you have a blast when you go out drinking, right? Where do you guys go nowadays? Where?
Study friends.
Study friends, that's what they call. Like, what's the spot now to hang out? Don't worry, you won't see me there.
Like coffee shops.
Coffee shops? That's where you guys get fucked up? Like, I mean, like your party friends. When you go out nightlife, right? Like, we're going out with today, tonight. You know what I mean? Anyway, well, those friends, right? You have a blast. But as soon as one of you decides to find Jesus, or you stop and realize, oh shit, I almost OD'd like 18 times in the past 6 months. I need to like stop. They'll call you still to see if you're down. And, the more you start saying no and no, they'll stop calling you. The only thing you guys had in common were the drugs and the alcohol, and friendship is over. So that's the first type of friendship. The second type of friendship is one based on utility. So in this one, and it can be a type of pleasure, but it's more focused on, again, it's a different type of benefit that you get. And maybe they're rich and they pay for stuff, or they help you get a ride, and you guys only talk when you're in the car or whatever. Or in school, right? They give you the notes, the homework, so you have to be at this boring lecture. They'll give you the notes and they'll tell you that you missed the quiz, whatever. Again, there's a utility. Sometimes it's equal, you're both using each other in one way or another. Sometimes only one friend is being used. The other one might think that they're, real friends or whatever. But, after this class is over, after you graduate, you'll never see them again, you never hear from them again. So once they're no longer of use, the friendship is over. And now, the last type of friendship, what Aristotle calls true friendship. This one can only exist among individuals who are equals. Now, they have to be equals because if they're not, then there's somehow a measure of utility or pleasure involved in that relationship. And you have to be equal in every aspect, right? Economically equal, physically equal, intellectually equal, even in terms of looks, right? This guarantees that that other person is there for you and not some other reason. And the important thing about a true friendship, right? What makes it a true friendship is there's an element of rivalry and a genuine concern for the other. Now you guys hear rivalry and you immediately think, that's inherently bad, but no. The point of this rivalry is cultivation. You compete with each other, but you're also still concerned with how that other person is doing, like on their own terms, right? Like whether they're getting worse or better. And the point is, again, to cultivate each other. So let's say one of you is like working out more in the gym, well, then the other one's also going to work out more. One of you guys starts reading a bit more philosophy, right? The other one also wants to catch up. So you push each other, and the goal is just to reach the same level of excellence. And that's good. It's true, friend. You both get smarter, fitter, better. There's a mutual care. Now, why do I bring all this up? What's the point? Well, if we look at your book in Memoriam, in the page 172. When Arthur Hallam died suddenly at the age of 22, probably of a stroke, Tennyson felt that his life had been shattered. Alan was not only Tennyson's closest friend and his sister's fiance, but a critic and champion of his poetry. Critic and champion, that should tell you, right? I'm trying to draw emphasis to how much this man meant to Tennyson. How many of you would write it? There's 131 plus the epilogue, 132 cantos. That's what each poem is called in this volume. How many of you would write 132 poems, right, to your friend? Maybe you would. I don't know, you guys. But the point is, these guys might have had some measure of true friendship. Again, this would be something that maybe could be argued in an essay. So, let's get into the poem itself. Strong Son of God, immortal love, whom we that have not seen thy face by faith and faith alone embrace, believing where we cannot prove. Thine are these orbs of light and shade. Thou madest life and man and brute. Thou madest death, and lo, thy foot is on the skull which thou hast made. He's just acknowledging, right, Christ and creation and all of that, and sort of this element of belief that is still around with the Victorians, right? There's a difference between belief and faith, but I won't get into that right now because that requires more context. Right, so he's just sort of acknowledging, right, this he's calling out to this higher power. Someone read for me, thou wilt not leave. Because
Thou wilt not leave us in the dust. Thou madest man, he knows not why. He thinks he has not made to die, and thou hast made him, thou art just.
What is he saying there? It's a bit complicated, but what is he saying there? I see you furrow your eyebrow. It's about the joke of existence, right? Existence is a joke. Now, why is it a joke? Well, you come in from who knows where to do God knows what, God knows why. You certainly don't know why you're doing it, and then you just die. Doesn't really matter. So it's almost like that last line, right? Thou art just. He's saying that's fair. So it's like he's saying, you bring me here, deal with all this bullshit, all these other people. You make me even care for some of them so much, and then they die, or I die. We all just die. Yeah, that's fair. You know, it's like I have nothing to show for it, right? At the end of the day. Thou seemest human and divine, the highest, holiest manhood. Thou, our wills are ours, but we know not how. Our wills are ours, to make them thine. The illusion of free will. You're told that you are responsible for everything and that you have control of your life. But in the end, you still die, so you have no control over that. You still answer to God, the Creator, the All-Father, Jesus. So it's an illusion, right, to think that we have any agency. It's sort of like follow-up to the previous stanza. Our little systems have their day. They have their day and cease to be. They are but broken lights of thee, and thou, O Lord, art more than they. What is he saying there? What does he mean by systems? That's a big clue. It's a footnote. Look at the bottom. It's the fourth footnote. These little systems, or our little systems. Excellent. What were we just talking about? Eudaimonia, and for the Christians, heaven. Yeah, preachers and philosophers coming at you, telling you they have the answer. Certainly Aristotle, right? We just talked about it. He certainly thinks that contemplation of life is the answer to a good life. So all of these sort of other people think they have the answer, but it's just a shade of God, right? Because if God is the ultimate answer, how can another human come and tell you what is or what isn't? They have their day and cease to be. He's talking about antiquity, right? Classical antiquity with Greece, or the area of Christianity, maybe the Spanish Inquisition. They have their day, like their moment, like it's big, it's massive. It spreads over years and influences cultures and even the landscape itself. But our broken lights of thee, and thou, O Lord, are more than they. So God is ultimately greater than any of these ideas or any of these concepts that we claim to be from God or to get closer to God. God is above all of that. This is Tennyson recognizing that, right? Someone read from We Have But Faith.
We have but faith we cannot know, for knowledge is the things we see, and yet we trust it comes from thee. A booming darkness let it grow.
More. Next one.
Knowledge grow from more to more, but more of reverence and most dwell. That mind and soul according well may make one music as before.
And so he's saying that the only thing we can really do, because we don't know for sure, we can't trust these other ideas, and because we don't really know God, all we can really do is have faith. Faith is sort of this dismissal of reason, right? You have to absolutely dispense with reason. I think I've mentioned it before, some other class. When Nehemiah was talking about Jesus, you have to dispense with reason, right, to have faith. But he's also saying that we should continue to develop enlightenment, right? When he says, let knowledge grow from more to more, that mind and soul according well may make one music as before. But he's also saying, do not stop cultivating spirituality, which seems to be where we've arrived, right? We're so ingrained with this whole STEM and engineering and mathematics that we seem to have forgotten what it means to have faith in God. And he kind of addresses what I'm talking about in the next one. But Master, we are fools and slight. We mock thee when we do not fear, but help thy foolish ones to bear. Help thy vain worlds to bear thy light. We don't care about God until something goes wrong, right? We sort of mock him. We claim to believe in God and to practice and all of this stuff. And it's not until something goes wrong that we're like, why God? Why me? Oh, damn, this life for making me feel certain way. No, none of us ever ask, we say thank God when something good happens, but we never ask why me, right? We never ask why something good happens because we feel like we deserve it. So what do though? We pander to others, but help thy foolish ones to bear. Help thy vain worlds to bear thy light. So yet we claim to believe in God and that others don't, and we must bring them to the light. That's a betrayal. That's an immediate betrayal. Maybe that's why all these shitty things happen to us, right? Forgive what seemed my sin in me, what seemed my worth since I began. For merit lives from man to man, and not from man, O Lord, to thee. So what he's saying is that, again, the hubris, right, that I talked about, we need to try to be excellent to one another. And simply for that reason, a lot of us are mistaken in believing that we have to be good to one another because it's what Jesus would want. And, to get there, we have to be good. And saying, no, forgive me for my mistake. I now realize I have to be good to others simply because. Now, how does this tie into some of the mathematic ideas? Well, he's sort of realizing that if he covets halam as something that's strictly for him, or as something that he invested in strictly for himself, he's betraying all of that, right? Does that make sense? Are you guys with me? Do I need to revisit anything before we move on? We're good? All right. Next page. Forgive my grief for one removed, thy creature whom I found so fair. I trust he lives in thee, and there I find him worthier to be loved. Forgive these wild and wandering cries, confusions of a wasted youth. Forgive them where they fail in truth, and in thy wisdom make me wise. Forgive my selfishnesses, is what he's asking. Now, it's another betrayal, right? To ask God for anything. To think that we deserve to even have that ability to ask when things are going wrong. That's sort of what he's lamenting. Forgive me for even trying to ask you to make this right or to fix this. So it's like you betray these ideas, but then you still want to recur to them for help or guidance. Let's log in here. All right, the next one. I held it true. Someone go ahead and read. You in the back, yeah.
I held it true with him who thinks to one pure heart and diverse tongues, that men may rise on stepping stones of their dead selves to higher things.
Next one.
But who shall so forecast the years, and find and lost again to match? Or reach a hand through time to catch the far off interest of tears?
What's he saying there? Something that we do a lot after we suffer a loss, whether it's in a relationship or friendship or family, whatever. Look at the second stanza a little closer. What was that?
You cry?
You cry? Yeah, you cry. For what? For what do you cry? Aside from that person, obviously. Let's say,
Loss of loved ones.
huh?
Or loss of loved ones.
Yeah. Like I said, aside from that person that you lost, whether friends, family, relationship, like they broke up with you, whatever, you cry for them. But what he's saying is, who shall so forecast the years and find and loss again to match? How long will it take to find someone to ease the pain, right? That's what we want almost immediately. If your boyfriend or girlfriend breaks up with you or whatever breaks up with you, you immediately want to either go hook up, right? Because you believe that another body, a physical presence can fix that. Or reach a hand through time to catch the far off interest of tears. Or someone to make time pass faster and heal the pain, right? Like, or maybe it doesn't even have to be someone, but like some element of magic that can just like, like for example me, right? Like when I had a relationship, tough relationship break, whatever, I knew I would get better at a later time, but I wished for that time to be already. Does that make sense? So that's sort of what he's lamenting in relation to the death of his friend, right? He knows that he'll get better, he'll heal, but he wants it to happen now. Let love clasp grief, lest both be drowned. Let darkness keep her raven gloss. Ah, sweeter to be drunk with loss, to dance with death, to beat the ground. What do we love doing despite wanting to heal? You guys love the sad vibes. You guys like the sad songs, sad shows that remind you of the good old times. It's like a paradox almost, right? It feels good to wallow, to wonder what could have been, why wasn't I good enough, whatever. That feeling, right? It's almost like, and for some of you, you love it so much that you even get better, find a new relationship, a new friendship, or heal, only to make it worse on yourselves. You sabotage yourself, right? And so you end that relationship to try to gain back, right? That's an example of a bad desire for this. To be sweeter with the drunk, sweeter to be drunk with loss, right? To dance with death. Some of you get even suicidal. That's how deeply it affects you. To beat the ground because you guys love just, it feels good, right? To throw a tantrum. It's almost like actually, I'll move on to the next answer before talking about that. Someone read and the victor.
Then that the victor ours is born, the long result of love and boasting. Behold the man that loved and lost, but all he was is overborne.
Time outlives everything, right? And so it's better to throw a tantrum than to let time remind us that it doesn't matter. It's futile to love. We throw these tantrums because it's like it's an expression of us trying to say like this is my investment, damn it. Like I put in work, hours into this friendship, family relationship, love relationship, and you took it from me. Right? Because when we suffer a loss, we're not like, yeah, that's what happens, and move on. We don't do that, right? We feel wronged. But it's time. What are you gonna do? You can't fight time. Next poem. We did one, yay. We're supposed to do like 3, so once we finish the third one, hopefully within time. We'll dismiss. Old yew, which graspeth at the stones that name the underlying dead. Thy fibers net the dreamless head, thy roots are wrapped about the bones. The seasons bring the flower again, and bring the firstling to the flock, and in the dusk of thee the clock beats out the little lives of men. You guys know what a yew is? There's a footnote, but the next page on the bottom. A yew is an old plant that symbolizes death in like Celtic culture, and you see it like planted around tombstones and stuff. He's just referring to how that plant outlives, right? It's been known, like some of them are like ancient, and they're still just there, and they have a berry that's poisonous. So some other weird symbolism there, right? A fruit that you cannot eat because you'll die. Oh, not for thee the glow, the bloom, who changes not in any gale, nor branding summer suns avail to touch thy 1,000 years of bloom. See, some of them are old as 1,000 years. But he's saying that they're unchanging, and like the seasons and the time doesn't affect them, right? They're not like normal trees that they get orange in the fall and then green in spring, and they go through the cycle. They can't even die. They exist, they're just there. Someone read the last one. And gazing on thee in 175.
And gazing on thee, southern trees, sick for thy southern fires to be glowed, that seem to veil from out my blood and broken corporate.
What's he saying there? Gazing on thee, I look at you, and your stubborn hardihood. How hardy do you have to be to last 1,000 years? Pretty damn tough, right? I seem to fail from out my blood and grow incorporate into thee. He's saying that this, not only is this plant a constant, like death itself, right? And it symbolizes death, and death is always there. He's saying, I wish I could be like you, unchanging with the seasons. Death is a guarantee for us, whether it's us experiencing it or to others that we know. And he's saying that I wish I could be like that plant who just sees all the dead and doesn't get affected by the fact that it's happening. Next one, last one. That's what we'll do for today. Someone read the first one. Number 3, 175. Oh sorrow.
O sorrow, cruel fellowship, O priestess in the vault of death, O sweet and bitter in the breath, what whispers from life to my ear.
Who is he addressing? There's a few capitalized words there, which usually entail some type of importance. Who would he be addressing? It's on the first line, right?
Sorrow.
He's personifying sorrow, right? This feeling of sadness, this intense feeling of sadness. And he's personifying to ask her what promises she has, or what sort of advice she can give. The stars, she whispers, blindly run. A web is woven across the sky. From out waste places comes a cry and murmurs from the dying sun. And all the phantom nature stands, with all the music in her tone, a hollow echo of my own, a hollow form with empty hands. What is he saying? Let's take it back to the first stanza, the stars, right? The stars blindly run. You can look at it almost like literally, right? What stars would it be? The cosmos, right? blindly run. They just keep trudging on their paths. A web is woven across the sky. From out waste places comes a cry and murmurs from the dying sun. There's another poem you guys read, right? Where the sun's dying. Or some of you. Darkness, right? What is the dying sun? How does the sun die? Any physics majors in here? Think more Newtonian. Newtonian physics? Second law of thermodynamics? What are they teaching you guys in those physics classes? That's why you guys want STEM? Just come over here. We'll teach you the same thing. I'll teach it to you right now. Second law of thermodynamics. Entropy. All the particles in the known universe move and travel and generate heat. What happens when a particle hits another particle? Transfers energy from particle to particle. Eventually that transfer slows down and stops. Second law of thermodynamics is that this eventually occurs to all particles in the universe. So you get what is called entropy, otherwise known as the heat death of the sun. Eventually every single particle in the universe will stop cold dead in its tracks and will cease to be. That's the spark notes of it. I'm not a physics major, but that's sort of what she's saying, right? Sorrow is kind of making him realize that the universe is uncaring. It keeps going, and even it eventually dies. Why should we be so concerned, right, with ourselves? Why should we're that self-centered that we somehow think our tragedy is much more important than that of the whole universe? Next one. And all the phantom nature stands, with all the music in her tone, a hollow echo of my own, a hollow form with empty hands. This is conflict or conflicting for Tennyson, because he holds ideas on immortality, right? Obviously, he's a good Christian. He believes in God. Now, here he has this feeling of sorrow, telling him that the natural phenomena that occur obey processes, chemical and physical processes that are outside the control of man or of any God. And it conflicts with Tennyson. For that same reason that I just told you, why should we be so preoccupied if this is all going on without us even being able to have a handle on it, right? That's something that we're also used to, right? Controlling, having a handle, gripping everything, and that's why it's such a hardship when something slips out of our control, right, so to speak. We convince ourselves that we even had any in the first place. So I want to read the last one. And shall I take?
And shall I take a thing so blind, embrace her as a natural good, or crush her like a vice of blood upon the threshold of the mind?
What is he asking there to himself?
That he should embrace sorrow.
He's asking, right? Do I accept her decree? What she's telling me? Everything I just explained to you? Do I accept that? And ask yourself, is this right? If you're crazy enough to believe everything I'm telling you, ask yourselves, do you believe in all of that? Or should you challenge it? That's what he's asking himself too. Or should I challenge it? It almost seems so certain. How could I challenge it? And that's what I'm asking you guys now. How could he challenge all of that, right? It's almost like a rhetorical question, right? Upon the threshold of the mind, like what mental resources could I use to challenge this? Well, for one, they're using physics and chemistry to prove to you, right? Rationality to prove to you that it doesn't matter. What do you guys think? Pretty dark stuff, right? Yeah, I'm sorry. Like I said, I don't really like the retorts. But you can see the romantic influence, right? You see how science, rationality, all of these things affect the human mind. And well, what can we do, right? I think that for this we can actually refer to Aristotle. Just be excellent to one another. You know, it already sucks. Don't make it worse. Everything you do, right? Ethics. Everything you do affects someone else. It's a mistake to think that anything you do does not affect anyone else. You're not, and you can't just think about your own family or your own friends, right? Every person you bump into and you talk to, you know, they say that you'll talk to like over 1,000 people over the course of your lifetime, but they've met you, and then they're gonna go and talk to another 1,000 people, or more than 1,000 people, and that's how you're all connected, right? You have some sort of influence from each other. And if you're shitty to that person's gonna go be shitty to another person because you made their day bad, and suddenly, you know, they're gonna react in a way that might make the day of another person shitty, and so on. Just be excellent to one another, right? All this mumbo jumbo just to tell you to just be a good person. But what does that even mean, right? All right, we're done. You guys can take off. If you have any questions or whatever.